You'd make a better messer than my assistant. She said it in the middle of our quarterly meeting while 30 faces waited for me to finish a slide I'd rehearsed all night. Laughter bounced off the glass. I stood 22 new suit itching. I smiled because everyone else did and felt the line split me in two. I wasn't hired to be a story. I carried stories, briefs, budgets, timelines for Grayson Group, the company that turns retail corners into places people want to linger. Day 1, I rehearsed names in the elevator. Day 3, I learned the rules. Arrive first, leave last. Don't spill on a contract. They worked until Claire Morgan, 36. She moves as if time has edges, and she knows them. In my first week, I watched her win a room with 2 questions and a silence that made a CFO swallow. That morning, I brought her ginger tea. She'd coughed the day before. "You're learning," she said without looking up. The line came during Q&A. Someone asked if our lounges needed massage chairs or community desks. I chose desks, added a note about dignity and space. Claire leaned back, eyes bright. "You'd make a better mess, sir, than my assistant." She let the room laugh. Heat climbed my collar. She watched me, then nodded for me to continue. When the room thinned, she stopped me in the hallway. "Ethan," she said, softer than the joke. "That was out of line." "I'm sorry." I said it was fine. Up close, she wasn't marble. A tiny scar by her lip, a ring she twisted when thinking. Eyes that carried a lot but asked permission before they set anything down. "I was trying to diffuse tension," she said. "Bad choice." "I get it," I said. "I'm new. Jokes happen." "You're not a joke," she said. And the quiet after felt like a door opening. By afternoon, the office had metabolized the moment. Derek from design wrote, "Congrats, you're famous." I buried myself in calendars and calls. At 7, the floor emptied. I printed tomorrow's brief and brought it to her office. Light on. Claire sat barefoot, heels by the bin, hair loosened by day. She looked up, startled, smiled. "Leave it," she said. "And wait." I waited. She rubbed her temples. "It isn't easy being in charge," she said. "People hear everything and almost nothing." "I heard." I said, "and I kept the part where you apologized." "That part matters," she said. "True or still, you were good today." She motioned to the armchairs. "Sit." 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Redrew a map. We talked through the project and where it was weak. She asked where I was from. I told her. She asked if I missed it. I said I missed how the sky had more room there. Silence came. Her phone buzzed. She said it face down. "I shouldn't have said that line," she whispered. "I know," I said. "Sometimes a line shows up before something real does." She looked at me surprised. The room felt smaller and warmer. She stood. I stood too, and we almost collided. Her hand touched my forearm. The contact was brief. We froze, then laughed at how we were pretending not to be careful. "Go home, Ethan," she said steady. "Come early. We'll fix the occupancy slide." I nodded and turned to leave. At the door, she said, "And Ethan," I looked back, "you'd make a better assistant than a masser." I took the elevator with a brief press to my chest like a letter I hadn't decided to send. The day started with a laugh. It ended with a sentence I could believe. Between those 2 sounds, something delicate rose. I didn't name it. I let it follow me into the quiet. By Monday, the joke had traveled farther than the coffee machine. I caught my name floating between cubicles. The masser guy, followed by small laughs that weren't cruel, but weren't harmless either. I kept my head down, focused on the numbers that never laughed back. Claire stayed formal, her tone wrapped tight. Every word measured like she was stitching a wound no one could see. Still, something had shifted. Every time she handed me a folder, her fingers hesitated just long enough to remember Friday night's silence. She avoided my eyes during meetings. Yet, when our gazes met, it was like standing too close to a storm. On Wednesday, Derek leaned over my desk. "You know, she canceled drinks with the board Friday. Maybe she's seeing someone." He winked, waiting for a reaction. I shrugged. Good for her. But my chest felt heavier than it should. That evening, I stayed late again. The office emptied, lights dimming one by one. When I stepped into the elevator, The doors slid open, and there she was. Claire, coat over one arm, coffee in hand, expression unreadable. Working late, she asked. Trying to stay useful, I said. Useful isn't the same as visible, she replied. Sometimes it's smarter to vanish before people decide your story for you. I smiled, unsure if it was advice or warning. Does that include CEOs? Her lips curved, the faintest ghost of amusement, especially them. We exited together into the parking lot where the city lights blurred against drizzle. She paused beside her car, unlocking it, then glanced back at me. You haven't eaten, have you? I was planning to, I lied. There's a place around the corner. Good soup. Neutral territory. Neutral territory turned out to be a quiet cafe that smelled of cinnamon and rain. We sat in a corner booth. For the first few minutes, we spoke like strangers forced to share a table. Weather, deadlines, nothing dangerous. But then she asked, "What brought you here, Ethan? To this city? This chaos?" I told her about my mother's diner in Indiana, how I wanted to prove I could build something bigger than small-town dreams. She listened, not the way managers listen waiting to speak, but the way someone does when they actually want to know. You remind me of who I was before the noise, she said softly. Before everything had to be earned twice to be believed. What about now? I asked. Now, she sighed. I mostly manage ghosts of choices of people who left of the woman I thought I'd become. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then pressed decline. The name on the screen was Evan. Ex-husband? I asked before thinking. Her eyebrows lifted. Persistent history. She said he never liked endings. Silence stretched between us until a waiter brought tea. She smiled again. Smaller, real. Thank you for listening. Most men just try to fix things. I don't think you're broken, I said. Her eyes lingered on mine a moment too long. Then she looked away. Careful, Ethan. Words like that echo. Outside. Rain turned heavier. We shared her umbrella back to the lot. She stopped beside her car. For the record, she said, I don't joke like that anymore. I noticed. I said, you replaced it with mystery. She laughed. A quiet, beautiful sound that made the rain seem warmer. Good night, Ethan. I watched her drive away, tail lights dissolving into the wet street. The night air smelled of coffee and something unfinished. The next morning, whispers returned sharper. Laura from HR cornered me near the printer. Whatever's happening, stop it, she said, eyes cold. She'll survive a scandal. You won't. I said nothing, but her warning burned. Later during lunch, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Thank you for last night. And don't listen to ghosts. No signature, just that I saved the number anyway. The days that followed felt like walking a tightrope made of whispers. Laura's eyes tracked me across the office like a hawk circling for proof. Every innocent exchange with Claire became potential gossip. Still, I couldn't stop noticing her. How her confidence could silence a room. How she tapped her pen when deep in thought. How she smiled less these days but smiled deeper when she did. On Thursday evening, she called me into her office. Close the door, Ethan. Her tone was calm, but her fingers drummed on the desk, restless. Laura approached you, didn't she? I nodded. She's protective of the company and of me in her way, Claire said. Still, I'm sorry she made it personal. It's fine, I said. She's just doing her job. And you, she asked quietly, are you doing yours? I'm trying to, I said, but it's getting harder to separate what's work and what's what. She pressed, eyes on mine. I hesitated. What's real? The air between us changed. She leaned back, then stood, walking toward the window. Reality is tricky in offices, she said. People pretend they don't feel to survive. I didn't plan to speak, but the words escaped. I don't want to pretend. She turned, studying me like she was deciding something irreversible. You're 22, she said softly. You shouldn't have to hide in anyone's shadow. And you, I asked, you shouldn't have to stand in front of everyone alone. She exhaled, a quiet laugh without humor. You think I'm alone by accident? Before I could answer, thunder rolled outside. She looked out the window again, rain tracing lines down the glass. Go home, Ethan, she whispered. Before we cross a line we can't uncross. But that line had already blurred. Later that night, she texted, I left some files at the office. If you're nearby, could you drop them at my place? I was nearby. Too nearby. Her apartment was high above the city, all glass and warm light. When she opened the door, she looked nothing like the woman who ruled boardrooms. Barefoot, hair down, soft sweater instead of silk. You didn't have to come, she said, voice gentle. I know, I replied, handing her the folder. She set it aside. Coffee? I nodded. We sat on her couch, mugs between us, rain tapping against the windows. She told me about her divorce, how success had become both armor and prison. I listened, not as an employee, but as someone who saw her cracks and thought they were beautiful. When silence fell, she looked at me, eyes bright but tired. You're making this complicated, Ethan. I think it already was, I said. She smiled faintly. You're right. It always is. The room hummed with unspoken things. She reached to take my mug. Our hands brushed. Neither of us pulled away. Her touch lingered soft, questioning. I could hear her breath steady but trembling at the edges. Tell me to leave, I said quietly. She didn't. Instead, she whispered, Stay. I did, not out of defiance, but because something pure demanded I not run. We talked for hours about ambition, loneliness, the strange price of wanting more. At some point, words gave up. She looked at me, eyes searching. I leaned forward, close enough to smell jasmine and rain. Our lips met, gentle, hesitant, a promise and an apology in one. When we broke apart, she rested her forehead against mine. We can't let this ruin us, she murmured. Then let's not ruin it, I said. She smiled sad and soft. You make it sound easy. It's not, I whispered, but it's real. Outside, thunder faded into quiet. Inside, time slowed to something fragile and true. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring. Whispers, judgment, maybe an ending. But in that moment, all I knew was the warmth of her hand and the certainty that lines once crossed never really disappear. They just become the paths we choose to walk. The following week was the longest of my life. Nothing felt steady anymore. Not my desk. Not the glances that trailed me through the hallways. Not even the ground under my own choices. Claire and I spoke less, but when we did, our words carried more weight than they should have. Every conversation was a negotiation between logic and feeling. By Tuesday morning, the whispers weren't whispers anymore. Laura from HR called me in, her tone rehearsed and professional. We've received a complaint, she said, about inappropriate closeness between you and Ms. Morgan. My stomach dropped. From who? I can't disclose that, she replied. But the board is aware. They'll look into it. Her eyes softened, but her voice didn't. You're young, Ethan. Don't let someone else's power sink your future. That afternoon, I saw Claire coming out of a meeting with Evan, her ex-husband. His presence was like oil in water, slick and wrong. He smiled when he saw me. So, this is the intern? He said loud enough for everyone to hear. Claire's face stayed composed, but I caught the tightness in her jaw. We're done here, Evan. He leaned close to her ear. You always liked charity cases. Then he walked away, leaving a silence thick enough to drown in. That night, Claire called me. Her voice was calm, but I could hear exhaustion behind it. They're questioning everything, she said. Every meeting, every email. Evan's stirring trouble with the board. I can talk to them, I said. Tell them it's not what they think. You'll only make it worse, she replied. They'll say I manipulated you. So what do we do? I asked. She paused. We survive quietly. But surviving quietly wasn't in me anymore. I couldn't stand watching her face every time someone whispered. Every time she pretended not to care. The next evening, I went to her office after hours. She was sitting at her desk, staring at a blank screen, the city glowing behind her like 1,000 silent witnesses. I can't watch them tear you apart, I said. Her voice was soft. This is my mess, Ethan. It's our mess, I said. You didn't drag me into this. I walked. She looked up, eyes shining in the dim light. If you defend me, they'll see it as proof. They'll use you against me. Then let them, I said. At least it'll be honest. She stood, anger flickering. Honest? Nothing in this building rewards honesty. It rewards masks. Then maybe we need to stop wearing them, I said. We stood inches apart. The air charged and dangerous. Her breathing was unsteady. You don't understand what I'll lose, she whispered. I do, I said. Because I might lose you. That broke her. The tears came silently, uninvited. I reached out, my hands trembling, and she didn't pull away. She leaned into me, her forehead against my chest. For a moment, there were no titles, no walls, no fear, just two people too close to the edge. When she finally spoke, her voice cracked. You should leave before you ruin your career. I'd rather ruin it than pretend this didn't happen, I said. She pulled back, eyes searching mine. You think love fixes power? Doesn't complicates it. Then let it be complicated. I said, let it be real. She exhaled shakily. You're impossible. Maybe, I said, but you're the reason. She laughed softly, wiped her eyes, and kissed me. Quick, fierce, final. Go, she whispered. Before I stop being your boss and start being just a woman who wants too much. I left without looking back. The echo of that kiss burned into me. The next morning, she announced she was stepping aside temporarily while the board reviewed claims. I watched her walk past me in the lobby, her face calm, her eyes elsewhere on her desk. Later that day, I left a single note. Thank you for believing in me. By nightfall, my resignation letter joined it. I didn't know where I'd go next, but I knew why I had to leave. Sometimes love isn't about staying. It's about making sure the other person survives the storm you helped create. 3 months passed before I saw her again. Enough time for the city to forget my name, for the rumors to cool, for the ache to settle into something dull and quiet. I'd found a new job at a smaller firm downtown. Steady hours, polite smiles, no ghosts in the elevators. Yet every morning when the coffee steamed against the glass window beside my desk, I caught myself glancing toward the skyline, wondering which light was hers. I told myself I'd moved on, but love doesn't end. It just learns to whisper instead of shout. One gray Thursday, an envelope appeared on my desk. No sender. Inside, a formal invitation printed on thick cream paper. Grayson Group. Grand opening of our new headquarters. The signature at the bottom was hers. Claire Morgan, CEO. For a while, I just stared at it, pulse heavy in my ears. I told myself I wouldn't go. Then I found myself standing in front of the building that night, watching light spill through glass like fire trapped inside crystal. Inside, everything gleamed. New marble, new faces, the same gravity. People laughed in tailored suits. I blended in, invisible again. Then I saw her. Claire stood near the stage, surrounded by investors. Same poise, same presence, but something gentler in her smile. She looked stronger, freer. For a moment, I thought of leaving quietly, content just to see her alive in her world. But then she turned and our eyes met. The crowd blurred away. She excused herself, walking toward me through the hum of champagne talk and cameras. I wasn't sure you'd come, she said, her voice low but steady. I wasn't sure either, I replied. She smiled faintly. You look different. Older, maybe wiser, she said. Maybe both. We stood in the edge of the crowd, words heavy between us. They cleared your name. I said, I read the statement, she nodded. Turns out the truth still matters sometimes. Then softer. Evan resigned from the board. Laura transferred to Boston. I'm glad, I said. And you? She asked. Are you happy? I thought about my new desk. My quiet days. Stable, I said. But I missed the chaos. Her laugh was quiet, wistful. The chaos was you, Ethan. Silence stretched again, comfortable this time. Then she said, do you remember that night you told me you didn't want to pretend? I do. She looked down then back up. You were right. I don't want to either. Before I could speak, someone called her name from the stage. She turned slightly then back to me. Wait here, she said. I watched her walk up to the microphone. Cameras flashed, applause rose. She gave a short speech about second chances, about rebuilding with integrity. But at the end, Her eyes found mine again across the crowd. And sometimes, she said, her voice soft but clear, success isn't about power. It's about the people who remind you who you were before you forgot. No one else understood, but I did. Every word landed like a quiet confession. After the ceremony, she found me near the exit. The noise faded behind us. She held out her hand. Come walk with me. Outside, the night was cold, the streets slick with rain. We walked in silence until she stopped under the awning. City lights shimmering on her skin. I kept your note, she said. It helped me remember I wasn't alone. I meant every word, I said. She stepped closer, eyes soft now. No walls left. You made me stronger, Ethan. I wanted to say something brave, something final. But she moved first, her hand resting lightly on my cheek, her lips brushing mine in a kiss that felt both like goodbye and beginning. When she pulled back, she smiled through tears. You'll do great things, she whispered. Just promise me you won't stop believing in people. I won't, I said, because one believed in me first. She nodded, squeezed my hand once, and walked toward her car. I watched her drive into the city's pulse until the tail lights vanished. I didn't chase her. I didn't need to. Some stories don't end with ownership. They end with understanding. And as I turned toward the empty street, rain beginning again, I realized something simple and painful and true. She wasn't just the woman who changed my career. She was the reason I learned what love costs and why sometimes it's worth